I'm Stacy Washington, your hostess with the mostest, talking about all the hot issues of the day and the best guests, to include our next guest, Mitch Kramer, CEO and founder of Fluent Financial. Thank you so much, Mitch, for coming on tonight.
Glad to be with you, Stacy.
I'm glad you're here because, wow, surging credit card debt. That is one of the primary indicators that economists use to gauge the health of the financial situation of American families. Tell us more about what these numbers are actually showing.
Well, Stacy, during the pandemic, the government gave out a lot of money. We couldn't spend it, and we saw savings really reach record levels. But after the Biden administration took over and the American Rescue Plan went into place, Larry Sumner warned the Democrats not to pass this plan. It would really cause rampant inflation. Sure enough, a year and a half later, we have rampant inflation. And for most middle Americans and lower income Americans, they're having to use credit cards to make ends meet.
So credit cards to make ends meet. That's not something people take lightly. In fact, I would dare say that a lot of Americans are doing it against their will. They're kind of like, okay, we're going to pay this, this cell phone bill with the credit card, and they're making other cuts. So, I mean, how deep can this go? What does it have to look like before we really see, kind of red alarms in the economy?
Well, the credit card debt can continue a little while longer. I'm not comfortable with the trend. The key is employment going to hold up? Because currently we still have record employment levels. As long as people have jobs, they're going to be able to probably pay the minimum payments on their credit card. So they can do this for a while longer. But people don't have any margin left. They can't handle any more hits. So if a medical bill or something happens at one of their jobs, then they're going to be in a world of hurt.
And that world of hurt is something that Americans are not looking forward to. But on top of the economic indicators, you have all these weird things coming out of Washington, D.C., like the bill that gives the IRS 87,000 more agents, not 87,000 school resource officers, right? Not 87,000 more Border Patrol agents, not 87,000 more military members. Active duty military is having a really tough time with recruiting right now. 87,000 more people to find out whether individuals got Venmo payments from a friend for selling them their couch.
No, absolutely. And it's just another example of this administration using the federal agencies, the fourth part of the government that's not elected, to enforce their will on the American people. And I wish November was next month and we could start changing the process by getting Republicans in control of the House and the Senate.
Yeah, me too. So I don't normally wish for November to come that quickly, although you get Thanksgiving, you get fall colors. I mean, there's some great things about it. But normally at this time of year, I'm like, oh, man, the summer's almost over. I really wish we could get a little bit more summer. I'm not thinking about trying to force November to come more quickly. This is something I think a lot of people are really hoping that a change in leadership in the House and the Senate could maybe put the reins on the Biden administration's policies.
Yeah, it will establish some gridlock, and it also will give Jim Jordan and Kevin McCarthy the ability to do some significant investigations that have not taken place. And I think at a minimum, it's going to create a gridlock environment, so a lot of the damage, I think, will be limited. I know Joe Biden will be exposed for who he really is, and I think that's going to be a big eye-opener for a lot of Americans. We're here in Texas, and you're aware of the congresswoman who took over the Democratic district in Southeast Texas, first time in many decades. A Republican won that district. I think that's foreshadowing what's going to be happening in the border states and a lot of Democratic districts. A lot of the Hispanic voters are fed up with the Democratic Party and their policies because all of these illegal immigrants crossing the border are affecting those people more so than any other group of Americans.
Yeah, so the people who most want the open southern border are the ones who are least impacted by the influx of new cheap labor. If you're a software engineer or, some kind of, wealth manager and you live in an exclusive neighborhood and the only illegal aliens you see are people mowing grass, painting your house, or taking care of your children, you're not worried at all about a surge of illegal aliens. They're not going to live in your neighborhood. They're only coming into work, and they do not jeopardize your work situation. But if you work at a chicken processing plant, or if you're working someplace, in a in other words, a blue-collar position, you could have your job replaced by someone who comes in who doesn't need benefits and won't take a break at all. Like 12-hour shift, they just won't take a break. This is a real danger for Americans who are paycheck to paycheck.
Absolutely, and you're starting to see some backlash. Our governor, Greg Abbott, did a very unique item where he's taking busloads of illegal immigrants and dumping them in New York City and Washington, D.C., and now those mayors are complaining about the influx of these immigrants, illegal aliens, which I think is ironic. He also invited both of them to come to the border firsthand and see what's actually going on. Of course, they refused the invitation.
Why go see the carnage for yourself? Then you'd have to deal with it. You'd have to be like, I believe in this. I'm going to go look at the border, see the people running across, and go, yep, this is what I want. They avoid those situations like the plague.
Absolutely, absolutely. A lot of your power elite on the coast, 90+% white neighborhoods, gated communities. They want everyone else to put up with their policies, but they don't want to succumb to them themselves. And I think you're going to see a pretty significant turnover this fall because I think Americans are fed up with it.
Yeah, and so the other thing that Americans are fed up with is nobody caring that they have to use their credit cards to make ends meet. So TransUnion, they do our credit scoring,
Sure.
are estimating credit card delinquency rates could increase from 8% in the first quarter to 8.4% in the first quarter of next year. And this is assuming inflation remains high, which I find it funny that any person, this is Reuters reporting this, that any person
Sure.
would write, assuming inflation remains high. Is inflation something that could, like, suddenly get low in between this time now and January of next year? Like, is that even possible, Mitch?
Highly unlikely, Stacy. And the reason for that is a lot of the inflation that we have is not the sticky inflation that, Janet Yellen and the others were talking about. Look what people are having to pay for houses, for rent, what you're having to pay your employees in terms of wages. I know our payroll costs at our firm have gone way up this year just to keep good people. And you don't cut people's wages when inflation goes down because you will lose them. Because one of the biggest issues facing small business owners prior to COVID, you couldn't find and keep talent. And with even more baby boomers leaving the workforce over the past 2.5 years, that problem has only gotten worse.
So now, on top of everything else, because it seems like, so every guest I have on outlines another problem that we're having in America, all due to Joe Biden's leadership. But we also saw the highest level of consumer spending in 40 years, up 1.1% compared to last year. Now, this is primarily driven by inflation because incomes have fallen by 1/3 of 1%. So talk to us about how that reality intersects. You're at Walmart. The image in this picture is $10.97 for a bottle of lotion. It's the the normal lotion that everyone buys. $10.97. It's Head and Shoulders 2-in-1. They have the lotion here and then also the shampoo, the 2-in-1 men's shampoo. $10.97 for a bottle. Now the bottle's pretty big, but still $11. Because you have to pay tax on that. So you're going to end up paying almost $12 for that bottle of shampoo. It'll last a while, but man, that seems a little outrageous.
It is, Stacy, and what we tell our clients, you have to be more careful on how you're spending money and how you use credit cards. And I've got some pointers I think your listeners would like to know. The two credit card sites you can go to, nerdwallet.com and comparecredit.com, they have credit card offers, and a lot of them will have 0% interest for a period of time. You pay a transfer fee. But if you can be disciplined and pay off that credit card before the high interest rates kick in, then more of your money will go towards the principal versus the interest. The other thing that people can do is our houses have had tremendous appreciation. You can get what is known as a home equity line of credit, and then you can transfer those higher interest credit cards to a home equity line of credit, which is better. So those are a couple things people can do. Another item that's been very helpful is if you become aware when you're spending money, Mint is an app you can put on your smartphone. And a lot of times, if you know what you're spending your money on, that can change your behavior.
So let's as adults, we don't like changing our behavior, but when we are faced with, kind of an economic downturn, that's a time where people are far more likely to adopt new habits and to kind of do it. It's out of necessity, so it's less begrudging. It's like, okay, this is just something we have to do right now, and things will improve of course, inflation is rampant under Democrat leadership. Usually the response by the American people is to install Republicans, and they bring the economy back to normal. So we know that this is a pathway we've been on before. But when you talk about the Mint app and things like that, these are good practices that could survive the inflation. So, tracking your spending, looking at, the necessity of certain things that you've gotten used to buying, that can be a habit that over the long term could really actually spur some wealth creation.
Absolutely. And another one I'd like to mention is buy used clothes for your kids. Your kids are going to outgrow their clothes before they outwear them. You can save a bunch of money. Make coffee at home instead of going by the Starbucks. Take your lunch to work. If you go out to eat, have water versus a drink. All these things can add up and make a big difference in your budget.
And on the clothing front, let me just say that, first of all, thrifting is back in. So the teenagers are all doing it because it's trendy, right, to wear clothes that someone else wore. And they talk about it. They write videos and songs about it. It's like a thing. But the smaller kids don't actually know if a item is brand new from a retailer or if it's new to them from the thrift store. They just, oh, you got me something new to wear. And so we often, when our kids are young and we're younger, we assume that things need to be new and things need to look a certain way because we feel like we'll be shortchanging our children if we don't do it. But the kids don't remember it. So I'm just speaking from my position. Our kids are young adults now. And sometimes I'll say, oh, don't you remember that party? Because everyone in your class came and there were, clowns and acrobats and this and that. And all three kids turned to me with a blank look on their face. And I'm like, I don't remember that party. I have to run into this room where all the books are, pull out a photo album, show them sitting at this party that cost me $325. My husband was like, this is ridiculous. I'm like, I know, but it is all the kids love this party. And it's such a great experience. And it was at the this huge, it's called City Museum. A man here who's a creative created this huge museum, and it's for kids. You can crawl through it, fly through it, slide through it. It's amazing. And they had parties there, and we had a birthday party there, and all three kids went, of course, and some of their friends, and it was an amazing party. None of them remember it. If I hadn't taken photographs, it wouldn't have happened. So obviously, you should do whatever is best for your financial situation, but if you feel pressured because you feel like your kids are getting shortchanged, they don't remember anything but how much you love them and how much fun you had together. They don't remember the big experiences. I mean, they'll remember Disney and stuff like that, but if they're small, if they're under 10, chances are they're not going to remember it, so you have to do what's best for your family financially.
Absolutely. A lot of Generation Zers are very much even buying clothes as young adults. So I think it's a healthy trend that can continue, and I do think inflation will come down. And the last thing I'll mention is we wouldn't have gotten Ronald Reagan if it wasn't for Jimmy Carter.
And we wouldn't have gotten Donald John Trump if it wasn't for Obama.
Yes, and we may get him again. And
I feel like we will.
Is what happened in Mar-a-Lago. Is this the Democrats trying to keep him out or trying to get him to run? Because they have nothing to run on that the American people get excited about. If Trump runs, they can say, well, if you don't vote, you'll get another 4 years of Trump. So I don't know how that's going to shake out.
I don't either. I mean, it's better than any basketball game or any other sport contest I've ever been to where it's a nail biter and towards the end I'm like, what's going to happen? 30 seconds. This is better than that because this is lasting a lot longer than 30 seconds or 6 or 7 minutes. Yes. But even more than that, they seem to be expert at shooting themselves in the foot. And so this is dangerous for our country, no doubt. But it also is something that we've never seen. We've never seen people this bad at governing also be this bad at calculating what could be worse for them than governing badly. It's just, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's groupthink on steroids, and I think the Democrats don't understand what that term means. And when you live inside the Beltway on the coast and you don't look at the rest of the country, you start to lose your grounding. And the majority of Americans are very well grounded, but the power brokers in charge are not. And hopefully there's a red wave that starts this fall and continues for the next 2 years.
I can't wait to see it. A red wave, a tsunami, a little bit of other earth-shattering things, all red. I'm looking for it. I can't wait for it. Thank you so much for the analysis and especially the suggestions. Stacy on the Right Show listeners, they love those kinds of things. They're practical, and it really helps us out in a time where, better times will come. The inflation doesn't impact everyone in the same way, but if you're struggling, those kinds of tips can be game changers. And I think it makes it a little bit more fun dealing with the problem, even though we don't really, we don't want to be here, but at least we can have some things that we're doing that we can see some results in, and it can be really fun. Mitch Kramer, CEO and founder of Fluent Financial. The website's fluentfinancial.com, fluentfinancial.com. Thank you for coming on tonight.
Thank you, Stacy. Glad to be with you.